everyone. This is Jonathan and Anna from season 37 of The Amazing Race, and we are here to do our top 10 countdown of episode 1.
What is up? This is Jonathan, as she said. We're here to do our... Why am I just repeating what you said? We're doing our top 10 countdown. Leg 1, Hong Kong. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Okay, our number 10. What do we have for our number 10? Sequester.
Sequester. Let's talk about Sequester.
What is Sequester?
What is it? Well, Sequester is when we are taken from our homes to a hotel room, and we are locked in that hotel room for a period of about 7 days, and we're completely shut off and isolated from the outside world and from the other teams, of course.
Yeah, it was wild because I expected to leave home and start the race immediately, but that was not the case.
No.
But it was nice because a couple of days into the sequestered period, we got to see the other teams. Now, while we can't talk to them or interact, you can't help but, take a look and...
You want to size them up. You want to check them out. You kind of sort of figure out who's going to be your competition.
Start taking a few notes.
Yeah. So seated right in front of us was a team who we were very intimidated by.
100%.
And that was Nick and Mike.
Yes. They just looked so put together, and they were
equally
fit.
They had perfect hair, perfect faces, and just intimidating guys in general. Yeah.
Very much so. Yes.
Now, when we got to know them, of course, they ended up being two of the nicest guys you could ever hope to meet.
Sweetest.
But all we had to go on at this point was their looks. And so we saw them and we were instantly terrified, I want to say.
But I remember over to our right, we had Mark and Brett.
And again, two very tall, muscular, smart-looking guys.
They look like gods.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, what season did we get put on? I feel like I'm on the wrong season at this point.
I remember writing on my notes, Brett is probably a doctor and Mark is a model. And
we were pretty close.
Yeah.
Doesn't Brett have like a BA in chemistry or something? Or
incredibly smart.
I don't know. These are both smart guys. Nick and Mike, smart, handsome, fit. Yeah, we're in trouble.
Yes.
And to the right of us, we see Scott and Lori, who, everybody's sort of quietly sizing the other teams up. Not Scott and Lori.
No.
They're very obviously sizing the other teams up. They have a pen and paper, and they're writing, taking notes, looking
very
up,
talkative.
pointing.
Yes.
And it's obvious they're sizing everybody up. And so that
Super
was
high
fun.
energy, very talkative, yeah.
We love Scott and Lori. That was fun. But that was Sequester. And it was like that for 7 days. And on the 7th day, they finally said, we're leaving. And
Oh, man.
I guess that brings us to our next subject. Number 9, Lost and Found.
Ooh.
Lost and Found. This is something that I'm very excited to talk about. This actually didn't make it into the final cut, but it's something that almost ended our amazing race. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay,
Would have been a not so amazing race if this happened.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So we're at the starting line. Phil says go, and you see us running to these cars so we can drive ourselves to LAX.
Right.
We make it to Fairfax, and we're heading south. And I'm like, we need to get directions.
Right. We don't know the way to the airport. People kind of assumed because we were from LA, we knew the way to LAX. We did not know how to get to LAX.
We don't do a lot of traveling.
No, this was actually going to be our first international flight.
Yes.
Which is a fun fact, I think. And we stopped for directions.
Of course.
Stopped at a Carl's Jr. We found a guy walking down the street with his family, and we asked for directions, and he was nice enough to provide those directions, right?
Right.
So we get the directions, get back in the car, head down Fairfax again, and about 5 minutes into that
Oh, my goodness.
trip, we realized we had lost a part of our clue.
Yeah, you asked me a question about the parking place we're supposed to park at.
And she's like,
and
it's
I'm
on the additional information. We don't have
I'm
that.
like, do you have it? He's like, no, you have it.
I said I gave it to you. She said I don't have it, and we realized we had lost the additional information. Which, if you don't know, so when you see us on TV ripping a clue, you see there's one part of the clue that we read on camera, but in the other flap of this clue that they give us is a piece of paper that's folded up, and it's called the additional information paper, and that's a very important part of the clue because that has details that they can't fit onto this little kind of rectangular piece of paper.
I mean, this contains all the information you need to know.
Yeah, it tells us what flight we need to get on, what gate we need to go to, where we need to park, right? So if you lose this, you've essentially lost your clue and you're screwed. So we realize we have lost our clue.
Yeah, so we turn around. Thankfully, this guy and his family are still on the sidewalk. I think they were like gathering things or gathering, their children. And we're like, hey, did we by any chance give you this yellow piece of paper?
Yes.
And he's looking at us as confused as we are.
He says, no, I don't have it.
I literally get on my hands and knees and I'm looking under the cars.
Yeah, we're thinking at this point it must have been blown away into the street somewhere and we're out of luck. We're completely SOL. So we get back into the car And we're hoping, like I say, Anna, do you see it back there? Can you look harder?
I mean, I think we at that point we're like, okay, we gotta head to the airport anyway. We're just gonna wing it.
Yes.
But on the way back down south on Fairfax, I don't know what made you open up that middle compartment.
I opened up the middle compartment, and it turns out I'd put it in the middle compartment. I see it right there, and that's what happens when you're on the race and your
100%.
mind is going at 1,000. Thoughts a minute.
You forget what you say. You forget what you did. I mean,
So I just slipped it in there unconsciously, and I found it, and luckily.
But at this point, we see a lot. We had seen a lot of teams pass us by.
When we doubled back, we saw teams coming and going, and so
we get to the airport, and not only did we make it to the first flight, but then we realized that we're the first team there.
We had thought we were last at this point because we had burned so much time going back and looking for this clue. They tell us we're on the first flight. We realized we're the first team there.
It's crazy.
I explode, and you see me
as you see on
dart
TV
down the airport like a maniac.
It was wild.
Celebrating. I was celebrating like that because I thought we were last, but we were actually first. And so I just wanted to provide you with that missing context that you didn't have before. So
oh man,
that
making that mistake 15 minutes into the race was, I mean, it could have been death.
You get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, and it was just an awful feeling. So to go from that to finding out you were actually first,
it was huge.
It was huge. So obviously that's what that big celebration was about.
Yeah.
And that's Lost and Found. All right, let's go to number 8.
Adrenaline.
So now we're going to take you back to the starting line because something very funny happened. If we can get a screenshot up, I would like to do that because it shows how when Phil said go, obviously you saw the fast teams just take off. Carson and Jack were out front. Listen, Josiah, they got a good jump. Brett and Mark were out there. These are the fast teams in the competition, we realized. And we had a bit of a delayed start because something was happening with her that she had not experienced before.
Not we, I.
Yeah.
Like, you took off, and I think it took me like 2 to 3 seconds to realize, oh, shoot, like, it's go time. You gotta move. And maybe my body was just trying to hold on, like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Because before this, I remember tapping to your shoulder, and I was like, babe, I feel like I'm going to puke.
That right there, that's adrenaline. And I was explaining to her, babe, what you're feeling right now is adrenaline going through your body. And I was trying to just calm her down as best I could. She had never been in this sort of situation before. And she was having that fight or flight response.
Yeah, I have never in my life played competitive sports or competed in anything by all means. So I just didn't know what to do. And my body was just not helping.
And so I have competed in sports before, and so I was just trying to calm her down, saying, babe, it's just adrenaline. Yeah. It's trying to get you ready for battle, pretty much.
But as a matter of fact, baby Jeff posted a picture of that first sprint off to the stairs, and I'm literally all the way in the back, and I remember texting him, and I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah, Phil actually said go, and your body actually, like, when it hesitated, it's like your body did not want to do this, but
the intensity was at a different level,
and that adrenaline was pumping, and I just think your body was just so not used to that feeling.
No,
that it actually, like, you like short circuited for a second.
Yeah, talk about first time.
Yeah.
To do it on television.
Okay.
Woo!
That brings us to number 6 on our top 10 countdown for leg 1. First flight. Did you know that this was going to be our first international flight together? Yes, that's correct. You heard it correct. We took our first international flight on the Amazing Race.
Make it a 14-hour flight.
And it was a 14-hour flight at that. And man, for my fellow low back pain sufferers out there, having your first flight be a 14-hour haul across the Pacific, not ideal.
How many pillows did you ask for?
I had like 2 or 3 pillows wedged underneath my back because those seats, man, they are not comfortable at all.
Oh, yeah. But that was so fun. And it was also a little, I don't know, I was anxious. You were flying over the ocean for that long.
It's kind of scary.
It sure was.
Yeah, like, where do you land if there's an emergency?
Like, we don't need to stop by to refuel. Like we're just going for it. All right.
So we took our first flight together on the Amazing Race to Hong Kong, and I think that's really cool.
Super cool. Okay, so for number 5, we are already in Hong Kong. We go to Tiantanbuda. We race to the Sun Ferry terminal.
We make it to that 9 o'clock ferry ride. It was a kind of a big moment on the show.
Yes, especially because I don't know if you recall, but I remember looking at the driver's ETA to the ferry terminal, and it said 9:01. So the fact that we just made it was so exciting.
Yeah, we took a gamble there and we made it, and we were headed to Chungchao Island.
And we are about to do our first roadblock.
We rip over the clue and it says roadblock. It's your first roadblock, and this was so exciting. And we decided that you should do it because we figured we had a lead at that time, and if we can get her to knock out a roadblock early, that would be great. So
yes, and so I am so pumped. Again, the adrenaline's still going, and I am so excited. I get strapped up and I'm going up, and man, that looked. It was just harder than it looked.
It was an imposing tower, and not only that, but. Do you remember, like, as soon as we walked up, I felt like the rain came down. It was
hard.
like on cue. It just started raining. Before that, there was a light drizzle. But as soon as we walked up to that tower, I felt like somebody just opened the gates in the heavens and the rain just kind of came down on us. And I felt like it was a very cool, dramatic moment when you were climbing that tower.
And I'm sure everybody was able to notice, but just getting over that first step onto the actual tower was a little tricky. Again, it was slippery, bamboo and water, just not a good combination.
Yeah.
And you also couldn't just it wasn't like rock climbing where you can just place your feet and push yourself upward. Your feet didn't really fit between these slats. So it was definitely
It looked
hard.
awkward. It looked very awkward.
Very awkward. And once your foot was in, you had to pull it out. It just took more effort than normal rock climbing, and that was exhausting. I was so tired.
But you got up there, you got your clue, you did that. I was so proud of you. I have to once again just give you your propers for climbing in the rain, because if you notice, when the other teams climbed, it wasn't raining for them. It might have been like drizzling, but no, it was coming down when you were climbing.
I did notice when Jackie and Lauren went up, it also came
also
down
for them. Weird. So the first and the last team got hit with the rain, and all the teams in the middle, they kind of got lucky and dodged that.
Yeah.
I feel like you and Jackie, you and Lauren.
Yes.
You had a unique challenge in that you had to climb in the rain. So got to give you guys propers on that.
I was happy that I was doing it by myself. Mind you, I think I would have done it a little bit faster if the other teams would have been there, but it was nice that I was able to take a couple of rests.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. That's climbing in the rain.
Number 4, Ferry follies. All right, guys. So at this point, I finished a roadblock, and we realized that the next ferry does not leave until 10:45.
Right.
Yeah. We go to McDonald's not to get a McFlurry, but to get some info.
Right. We go to get some info about the next stop, and it turns out in that time, we didn't know this, but the teams had got off the fast ferry that they took.
Yes.
Climbed up the tower, climbed down the tower, came back down, and
Utter shock.
We see them at the ferry terminal. I had no idea they were even there.
So, fun fact. If you're ever in Hong Kong, this is important to know.
Oh, yeah.
There are 2 different kinds of ferries, baby.
There's a slow ferry, which we took.
Because it happened to leave at 9. And then they interchange. So, it's like the slow ferry leaves and the fast ferry and then the slow ferry again. Ours took 55 minutes to get from Central Pier to Chungchao Island.
Correct.
The fast ferry took 25 to 30 minutes.
That's a significant time difference. Yeah.
So even though they left at 9:45, that means they got to the island at about 10:15, right at that moment when we were at McDonald's.
Yes, and we were. I had no idea. I didn't even know they were on the island.
It was just not knowing.
I just didn't know. And so when they caught us in the terminal there after they had finished a roadblock, it was just utter shock and horror.
Yeah, like how? Yeah. When?
How did this happen?
I didn't hear you coming in.
They snuck out of that ferry like ninjas. They went up, they went down.
Yes.
And it all happened so fast. I feel like that.
So
I was just my brain couldn't process what was happening.
No, it was the utter shock.
Our reaction is very much the real reaction, and they caught it all on camera. And so that was ferry follies. Just know, if you go to Hong Kong, there's a fast ferry and a slow ferry.
Just take the fast ferry.
Yeah, if you can take the fast ferry, definitely take the fast ferry.
You know, I noticed Jackie and Lauren took the 10:15 ferry, and so it happens, it was a slow ferry.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was that big, older ship.
So that's how they got so far behind, probably.
Yeah. All right. So now we're coming down to our top 3. For number 3, we have Money Changer.
Money Changer. And again, kind of like Lost and Found, how we lost that additional info before we get in on that first flight. This was a potentially game-changing moment, a potential game ender. Not lying here. No exaggeration. If we didn't get on this ferry, we would have been racing for last place. Okay, so who is the Money Changer, and why was this guy so important?
Yes. So I get to the counter to buy our tickets to get on the fast ferry. This is after all the teams are already there.
Yes.
And I have a $100 bill because I was told that we could use
Oh,
US
yeah.
dollars.
And when we went to exchange the money at LAX, he had ran out of Hong Kong dollars,
right.
right?
That
So
is
that's why
why-
we had this American money on us.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I was told we could use it in Hong Kong, so I was not stressed about it.
Right.
So I pull out my US dollars.
And she just
And
says,
she's like, no.
uh-uh.
And I'm like, no, I need my tickets. And she's
And this
like,
ferry, look,
no.
all the other teams are on the ferry at this point.
No. They got their tickets.
They're
and
on.
on the ferry.
And it's about to
Oh.
leave in a couple of minutes. And we have this American money that this lady is not accepting.
I remember very clearly
it's
looking at my
panic.
watch, and we have 4 minutes to get on this ferry.
Sheer panic sets in.
So I grab my money and I go back to the promenade, and I'm yelling like a crazy lady. I need money. I need exchange.
Emergency 9.
I am losing it. Somebody sees me and she's like, there's a bank right there. And I'm like, I don't have time to go to the bank.
Talk about the money changer.
And so out of the blue, this man who is at the newspaper stand, I think you can catch him for a quick second on the video.
Yes,
he reaches out to me.
His stand is set up right in front of the terminal.
Right. He reaches out to me and he says, come here. And he takes my money and he starts putting Hong Kong dollars in my hand. Now, I have no idea what the exchange rate is.
We don't have
supposed to
time to ask. We just we need Hong Kong dollar now.
be. And I'm thinking, I just need enough for the ferry and maybe a couple taxis. We'll figure it out.
We don't
I
know
just
what
need to get on
exchange
this
rate we're
ferry.
getting at this point, okay? And we're just hoping he gives us the fair amount, the right amount.
But what I realized later is that he actually gave us a very good exchange rate,
It
more than
turns
we
out
could
he
have gotten.
gave us more than we actually had in American money. So that was cool.
That was really cool. But anyway, I run to the ticket counter. We get our tickets and we get on the ferry. I don't know if any of the other teams noticed, but we literally got in like 1 or 2 minutes before the ferry.
Right
left.
as that lift was going up, I feel like we got on that ferry. That was a miracle. If that guy
100%.
wasn't there, suddenly we're competing with Jackie and Lauren for last place now.
And mind you, there's a fork in the road coming. People know we're not in the ferry. I mean, we're out.
We're out. We're out, bro. So that, again, 2 things happened in the first leg that you didn't see that almost ended our race. These were pivotal moments. So
And thank God for that, Angel.
Thank God for that guy. Yeah, 100%. And that brings us to number 2 on our top 10 countdown list. Singing struggles. Ooh, Cantonese opera. Who knew? Cantonese opera was so difficult. We get to the fork in the road. This is the big twist for leg 1 of this season of Twist. We get to the fork in the road and we see dance and we see sing. And she says, well, obviously we're dancing because
we're dancers.
We're dancers.
We met in a salsa class.
we met in a salsa class 15 years ago.
What did I say? A few years ago.
I'm not sure. 15 years ago, we met in a salsa class, and that's our thing. We dance. We love to dance. And so we would have liked to do dance, but as you saw on TV, there were about 4 or 5 teams who were already chosen that route. And so we saw, on the other hand, on the sing side of things, there were only 2 teams there. It was Alyssa and Josiah and Han and Holden.
And also, we had just seen Han and Holden take off as we got to the fork in the road. And I think that was the more determining factor. We did not know when these teams put up their face on the dance side.
Yeah, so when we came off the fair, we were all rushing to get cabs, and we're one of the slower teams there. So we actually had a hard time finding a cab because
It took a while.
Yeah, there weren't 13 cabs waiting for us.
No.
There were like 5 cabs, and the rest of us just had to kind of wait until the cabs would come, and we'd pick them up as we saw them.
Right.
So as she said, we didn't know when these people on the dance side had left. Was it 5 minutes ago? Was it 10 minutes ago? We didn't know.
Exactly. So seeing Han and Holden take off, that gave me a little bit of comfort. I'm like,
We
okay, well,
knew-
they're the second team on this challenge. So we have a potential at, getting second or even first
Maybe
if we
even
just hurry to the tea house.
So yeah, we decide right then and there, make a strategic decision. We're singing. And what did you think when we selected sing? Because I know that you had to be a little bit nervous at that point.
Well, when we first selected, I didn't think anything of it. I'm pumped. I'm just like, I gotta do whatever I gotta do. But once we are on the ride to the tea house, that it kind of dawned on me that I am actually not a singer. I cannot sing for the life of me.
Yeah.
I can't hold a note. What am I doing?
Yeah, but I was actually pleasantly surprised once we got up there. And I sang my part, and then I heard you sing your part. I was like, wow, this girl she's singing it. She sounds like a Cantonese opera singer. This is
miracle.
amazing.
It was a miracle.
And she pulled off like a miracle right there on stage. And that's really just a testament, I think, to your just abilities. Because once you get out of your head, I think you're capable of doing things that you don't think you're capable of doing. And I think that was kind of amazing.
That's a
that
good
you
point.
did that.
Yes.
And so anyways, we struggle to get the movement down, right? It's a tricky challenge because it's not just about how you're seeing it. It turns out
Right.
they're also evaluating your movements. And, with these challenges, you never really know, what are they grading you on? What's the criteria? It's not
Right.
always cut and dry.
No, it's not like we got a rubric and we know exactly what to do.
No.
And I feel like every time we didn't get our clue, it's like we got different feedback. And so you're trying to incorporate that, but it almost feels like you become more susceptible for mistakes the more you do it because you're just questioning everything you're doing.
It was getting frustrating because you feel like you got up there and you nailed it, and then they hit you with some other thing they say you didn't do, and then you did it a second time. You think you nailed it.
Right.
It's oh, you're too far apart this time. It's like, okay, well, gosh, what do you want me to do? Sing this thing in a Cantonese accent? Am I missing something? Thankfully, we didn't need to sing in a Cantonese accent. That would have been very bad. And we get it on our
Third try?
fourth time. I don't remember. But we finally get it. And that was a frustrating experience, but we got through.
Can we talk about the makeup for a minute?
Let's talk about the makeup because I feel like I got the worst makeup out of everybody on the show.
Everybody had really perfect makeup.
Yeah, Alyssa's looked perfect.
Yeah,
Han and Holden's
Holden's
looked perfect. Oh my
perfect.
gosh, Jackie and Lauren had perfect
even
makeup.
I had like a squiggly brow.
And me on the other hand, I looked like I was shot in the face with a makeup gun. And they just said, okay, get up there.
But you know what? In their defense, I think our coaches were trying to do it as quickly as possible because they saw how,
they knew we were right.
Were.
They knew we were gunning for first, and they wanted to help us out there. And
so thank you for that.
that's why my makeup was so bad. Drum roll, please. Number 1 on our top 10 countdown is the Matt moment. Yes. The Matt moment.
All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Let's get right into it. We get our clue at the Sing challenge, and we head towards the pit stop.
Yep.
In Kowloon Bay, and we get to the pit stop, and I am visibly upset.
Right.
And okay.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. And we get to the mat, and Phil says we got second place, and I say very dourly, I respond, that's not good enough. That's not good enough, Phil. I want it first. And
it's so funny because I feel like until we got to the mat, like you were fine. Like suddenly you see Phil and just all these emotions.
Everything came out. Yeah.
And it's important to know. I don't think you were as upset that we got second. It was more of how it all transpired. It was how
everything happened from, just an hour ago, we were on top of the world. We thought first place was all but secured. We were riding high, and in the blink of an eye, everything kind of changed there at the ferry terminal. And then the frustration of the singing challenge, and then getting to that mat and knowing you missed out on first place, it hit me pretty hard. Anyways, that's it. That was the Matt moment, and I hope you enjoyed our countdown for leg 1.
Yes. If you guys have any questions,
leave them in the comments as usual, and we will do our best to answer those questions for you.
No spoilers,
Yeah, no spoilers. And stay tuned for our top 10 countdown for leg 2 when we go to Osaka, Japan.
All right, guys. That's all for today. Bye.
See you next time.